he has a big problem. His wife pooped on him. Let me explain. Now the guy, his name's Richard, and he lives in London, he works in IT, and he's a really nice guy. And one night, he's out at a nightclub, probably drinking, dancing, having a good time, and that is when he meets this woman, Cherie. And Richard thinks Cherie is fine, and she thinks he is fine. So they hit it off, and pretty soon they start dating, and they get into a relationship. And things are going great. They seem really happy. Until... Here's the thing about Cherie. Cherie likes to drink. A lot. And when she drinks, she gets aggressive, especially with Richard. And so they fight, and sometimes when they fight, she gets out of control and she ends up getting physical with him. Like, she'll push him or slap him, and he's allegedly not the kind of guy who fights back, so he just takes it. And to make it worse, he's not about to admit to anyone that his girlfriend beats him up. Like, that's embarrassing. So Cherie's occasional drunken abuse continues. And 9 years pass, and Richard and Cherie, they end up getting married. But marriage doesn't stop the abuse. In fact, over the years, it actually gets worse and more frequent. Oh, and the abuse is not just physical. She verbally abuses him too. Like, he'll forget to do something like put the chicken in the oven for dinner, and she'll just lay into him, berating him, calling him all kinds of awful names. She'll also make offhand comments about his mother who passed away, which is just terrible. Not only that, when they start trying to have a kid, I guess they have to do it through IVF. And Cherie doesn't like that they have to do it through IVF, so she starts accusing Richard of being defective, of not being a real man, and that he's a failure because he's unable to get her pregnant. Just all kinds of awful stuff. Now, eventually, Richard does get her pregnant, and they do have a kid. So, to keep track of their kid in the house, Richard ends up installing nanny cams in the bedroom and in the kids' playroom. And these nanny cams are gonna end up being important. So, more years pass, and the abuse continues to get worse. And Richard and Cherie, they have 2 more kids, so 3 daughters total. And over time, Cherie's drinking, unfortunately, gets more and more out of control. Sometimes she's consuming like 3 bottles of wine a day. And the more she drinks, the meaner she gets. Like, she's constantly calling Richard names, and sometimes she'll hit him, or she'll bite him, or she'll stab him with a fork, or she'll smash eggs on him. And like one time she gets so mad that she smashes an empty wine bottle over his head. And he's lying on the floor in pain, and she just like kicks him in the ear. Like, it is really bad. And poor Richard, he still doesn't want to tell anyone that his wife is abusive. I guess he's still ashamed that she beats him up, or maybe he just doesn't want to get her in trouble. Not only that, she very openly threatens to tell everyone that he is the abuser. And in these domestic abuse situations, men usually are the abuser, so people are more likely to believe her story over his. Sometimes she even threatens to go to the police and tell them he's the abuser. Sometimes she tries to get his daughters to tell people that he's abusive to them and her. Like, it is wild. So, not only does Richard not tell anyone, he goes to great lengths to cover it up. Like, sometimes she'll hit him, and he'll get bruises or injuries on his face, and he'll just cover up those marks with makeup so that people don't notice and start asking a bunch of questions. And so anyway, the abuse continues, and he just lets her punish him, verbally, physically, emotionally. Now, at some point during all this, so this guy, he has